So welcome everyone to the Emerging Trends webinar series, How to Reduce Risk with New Hires. So we'd like to just kick it off and just give you a quick little introduction to our presenters if you weren't here for our last webinar. My name is Zachary Rosenthal, and I am a senior risk advisor here at EIG. My background is with 15 years of experience in occupational medicine and working with clients to help develop a strong workers' comp medical program. We're also joined here by Eddie Martinez, who has over 25 years of insurance industry experience, of which 20 years have been devoted to successfully creating, training, and leading an award-winning risk management department. He is the vice president of EIG Risk here in Miami, Florida, and has helped hundreds of companies lower their risk by helping implement the P4 process. We're also joined here by Steve Heinen, who is the pioneer and creator of the P4 People Risk Management process with over 40 years of experience in risk management.
Here he
I think he
comes.
was doing risk management before I was even born.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. All right.
So just to kick it off, just some housekeeping. We do have CEU credits offered for HRCI and SHRM 1 general credit. If you are collecting the CEU, you will need to be in attendance for the full hour in order to receive your credit. Zoom does track your in and out time, so just be aware of that. Also, there will be a survey evaluation we'll be sending at the end of the session. If you are collecting the CEU, you will need to complete the survey eval after the session within 24 hours to get your credit. But we do encourage everyone to participate in the survey. Give us your feedback. Tell us what you think of the webinar. Also, throughout the training, there will be 2 keywords provided. You will need these keywords in order to get your CEU credit, so please be on the lookout for that. So let's talk about the journey of where we've been going with our Emerging Trends series. So we started back in August with the introduction to people risk management. And this was really the foundation, talking about leadership. But it's time to get more into the depths of P4. And this training, How to Reduce Risk with New Hires, is really going to focus on P1 and P2, which is pre-hire and post-offer. Then in October, we're going to get into safety. November, we're going to be talking claims management, specifically in workers' comp. We have a couple guest presenters lined up, very excited to announce who we have joining us for that session. And then in December and January, we're going to go into fleet safety, cyber, and employment practices.
Now, you guys might be thinking, what does the hiring process have to do with insurance and claims? Well, I'll give you the simple answer. Everything. It has everything to do with claims, everything to do with insurance. The people you bring into your company affect your culture, affect your safety performance, affect everything in your company. Your welcome mat is extremely important. I've worked in safety and claims for over 25 years, and one thing that I've learned is you can have every safety procedure in place, but if you're not hiring the right people, you're never going to get from good to great. So you have to have a very strong hiring process. I put this picture here of a car. It's actually a time machine. For those of you that are over 40 years old, you remember watching this as you grow up. I guess Steve was watching this for a long time. It's
Here he comes again.
From Back to the Future. And I'm kind of aging myself because growing up, I'd watch this and I'd be like, wow, what would I do with a time machine? Some people are like, oh, we got to go see what the lottery numbers are. Let me go into the future. But imagine going back in time and preventing a bad hire and redoing a bad hire and preventing that person from coming into your company. That's what we're going to really talk about today. And Steve Heinen, who's on this webinar, has spent over 30 years developing this hiring process. And he's going to walk you through a flow chart of how to identify red flags and how to identify a good hire. So with that said, let me turn it over to Mr. Steve Heinen.
So, all these cracks about me being old, if anyone is on the webinar that joins me chronologically, that just means we have a lot more perspective. Doesn't mean we're smarter than the young people. We just have more perspective. My wife's grandma says words don't create understanding, experience does. So for those of you that join me, we have a lot of experience. I did this workshop live and with 153 HR managers. And I asked a couple questions. One is, polling question is, do you think work ethic over the last 10 years is improving, staying about the same, or getting better? 91% said work ethic's going down. 9% said stay the same. Nobody raised their hand and said it's getting better. And then we asked the same group, have you ever hired a workers' comp claim? And 89% rather said, yes, we have. And so what Eddie was talking about with the time machine is everybody that's been HR with a workers' comp claim said, if you could have had a do-over, would you hire this person? And so what we're going to talk about today is some things you can do. I know the challenges, particularly post-COVID, with hiring is you've got to, if they got a pulse or fog a mirror, but we're going to give you some things that maybe are just speed bumps, not, do not hires, but speed bumps to keep some of those bad apples out. So hang with me and we're going to go through this stuff. And I think you'll find it's some pretty actionable information. One of the rules, Eddie and Zach get to hear me all the time. I got this rule called the 20-60-20 rule. And it applies to just about everything. We're an insurance agency. 20% of the people we hire are just great right out of the gate. They're just going to be great in spite of us or with us. 20% aren't going to make it, and 60% can go either way. It's how we influence them, we train them. Same thing within your company. You've got, a workforce that 20%, man, they just show up. They're no problem. 20%, you probably spend 80% of your time with. And the 60%, they could go either way. And what I find a lot of times in workers' comp particularly is they end up going to the bad side in a claim. And there's things we can do certainly to try to improve these averages. What we want to do is we want to win over the either category and move them to good. So let's talk about that. We did supervisor leadership training. It's something we lean in hard to. We talked about that in the first session. But when we ask supervisors what they would like to have in an employee that was hired, these are some of the words that come up. And I think you guys would all agree as you read the word cloud. This is what we're looking for. The problem is, it's just like we talk about in supervisor leadership training. We've got to level them up. We've got to, first of all, put someone in a supervisor position that we think we can train up to be good leaders. And we got to teach them what that means. But we also have to do the same thing with employees. So you can actually do that as part of your new hiring process. We're going to talk about that. So here is the flow chart. Now, I know you're looking at it on screen. It's probably a little bit difficult to read. I've got a huge monitor because I got terrible eyesight because I'm old. But we will send a copy to you guys of this. Zach will get this out to you guys for attending the workshop so you can use it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through each step of this. And it's really important that you do things in the right order. Now, as you look at this, the only thing that can really change order is step 5, the integrity test could be done as step 1. And I'll talk about that when we get to it. But what I see and you're probably thinking, first of all, we're insurance brokers. And like Eddie said, what does this have to do with insurance? It has everything to do. I don't understand why underwriters don't ask more questions about how you manage risk, how you hire, what kind of new safety orientation you have. Do you use a post-offer health question or not? They should actually price your account based on these things because we know, I've implemented this with hundreds, now probably thousands of clients. We know it reduces risk 25 to 40%, which ultimately is going to impact your insurance. So we're going to go through these steps. I'm going to try to give you some clear explanations. If I go through anything, too quickly, please reach out and Zach and Eddie are monitoring the chat box and you can ask a question and we'll go back. We'll also record this if you need a copy of the recording. And certainly if there's questions afterwards, reach out to Zach and Eddie and they can do some follow-up with you. So let's talk about drug-free workplace. Most employers are drug-free workplace. Now there's a difference between a drug-free workplace and a certified drug-free workplace. But let's just say you're a drug-free workplace. Simple things you can do is have a prominent sign for all applicants. Also, really, really important, you have a written program. And then include it in the job application. Let them know, hey, if you don't drug test pre-hire, Let them at least know you're going to drug test post-accident. Do all that. Just let them know when they come in. Hey, we drug test. A lot of questions. You know, Zach is our expert in the office on drug-free workplace. A lot of questions about, you know, can we exclude a test for THC because people are smoking pot more and more, and those kind of things. If you have questions on what kind of test to do, be sure to reach out to Zach. He can give you all the information you need. But set the tone, let them know. And I'll tell you why this is so important. One, somebody may come in to apply for a job and they may leave. Two, they take the job, they at least know, and you've got evidence and documentation. You've told them, look, if you're hurt, we're going to drug test post-accident. This helps down the road if they ever have a claim and we have a drug defense. So this is step one, simple step to follow. Follow these 3 bullet points and you're off to a good start. Okay, we're now to step 2. And again, this is something we lean into really hard, is developing a job description. So when we talk about a job description, Zach, are we going to launch a polling question?
Yes, I got a poll ready because I think that was a lot of fun with our first session. It really engaged with the audience. So let me go ahead and launch our first poll here. Okay, 1 second. Okay, we're launching it. We'll just give everyone around 45 seconds to answer.
I want to compare this to the stats we got on the last one. We'll see how they do. We got some of the same people, so a lot of the same people.
All right, we'll give it another 10 seconds. And also just a reminder, there will be a prize wheel at the end of the session. So if you want to win an Amazon gift card, you need to stay to the end.
Do we get
Okay, we're going to end the poll here.
No.
So here are the results. 75% said yes, 25% said no.
Okay, that's different. And the last one is 57% yes. So we've got more folks dialed in on this one. Now, let me tell you why this is so important. First of all, it's important really in 3 areas. And then we're kind of jumping around, you know, remember the 4 Ps are pre-hire, post-offer, prevention, and post-claim. The job description actually touches P1, P3, and P4. And let me explain how. So from a pre-hire standpoint, what you want to do if you've got a job description with physical demands, you want to present it to the applicant before they ever fill in an application. For example, Zach's applying for a job at EIG. I say, Zach, here's our job description with the physical demands. Can you do the job? He says, yes, I can. Okay, then we're going to go on through the process, which we'll talk about. If he says, no, I can't do the job, then you withdraw the job offer. It's that simple at that point, because you haven't even offered the job yet. You're going through the pre-hire process. So the job description is part of the pre-hire. From a prevention standpoint, there's these things called job hazard analysis or job safety analysis that companies like to see, part of safety training. So let's say that you have a new hire and they're going now out into the workplace and they change jobs. You want to be able to present them and say, these are, you know, changing jobs within the plant or whatnot. These are the tasks you'll be asked to do, and can you do these jobs? So for ongoing, remember, you hire someone in position A, but when they work for your company, they may move around within the company. So it obviously helps from a prevention standpoint. And then post-claim it is really important because you want to send a copy of that job description with the employee to the physician, because the physician's got to determine, can that employee return to work? And without a job description and physical demands, who do you think makes up the job description? The claimant, the injured employee. And, you know, sometimes they exaggerate. And they say, well, I lift 100 pounds. The doctor says, can't return to work. Come back and see me in 30 days. Can't do the job. I'm pulling him out of work. Now you're like, well, that's not right. He doesn't lift 100 pounds. And now you've got to try to reel the thing back in. And again, that guy's or gal's going to sit at home for 30 days. We can't get back into the doctor again for 30 days. So we've already put the person out on benefits. You've got to put them on your OSHA log as a recordable and all those things. So starting it with, hey, don't let the employee make up the job, send the job description. I will say, I probably need to edit this for future webinars, is it also impacts post-offer. Big time comes into post-offer when we talk about the post-offer health questionnaire. So really the job description really impacts all 4 Ps. Application process, what I say is, just have a standard form. We're not HR attorneys, and make sure that you pay attention to detail. Okay. Make sure that the application is completed. Whatever application you use, make sure it's completed. If there's an employee trying to trick the system and they come in and lie on the application, most times they don't lie, they just leave it blank. And the employer never even reads it, bothers to see that they left it blank. We discover it down the road when we have a workers' comp claim. But just make sure whatever you do, go through it in detail. If you're doing a criminal background check and all those things as part of it, just make sure you follow through. And the best advice is do it the same for everyone. Okay. The other thing is standard interview questions. What can you ask and what you can't ask? We've got a whole HR guidance portal that we give to our clients that can help you on these things, all these things. We've got all kinds of resources to help you. So if your company's struggling with your application process, or if you have questions, let Zach or Eddie know. They can show you our portal. It's got a great HR portal built in. Polling question number 2, Zach. You're on mute. Zach, your mic
Okay.
is muted.
Got it. All right. Poll is up. Does a person's application have any impact on a workers' comp claim? All right, let's give everyone another 20 seconds. Okay, 10 more seconds to get those answers in. Okay, let's share the results. This one is more in favor of yes. We have 90% that said yes, 10% that said no.
That's fantastic. We haven't asked this question before, so that's good to know. The question is how? Why? Why does it impact? 90% of you said it does. How? So I'll tell you how it does. What happens is, when you have an application, you need to scan through that if you have a workers' comp claim. What's going to happen is we're going to have a claim. And let's say the person, and we're going to go down the road with the post-offer health questionnaire, but let's say we got a lot of red flags about this injured employee, this claimant. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go do a medical canvas and see if the person's had other medical treatment in the area because they live at XYZ Street in Broward County. But if we look back at their application and we see they moved from Jacksonville, that gives key information to the claims adjuster to say maybe they need to expand their medical canvas to Jacksonville. And they are, it gives information to the adjuster that they can use if it's maybe a questionable claim. So there's a lot of things in the application. If they lie on the application, if it's material to the workers' comp claim, it may give your defense attorney ammunition to deny the claim. So make sure when you have a claim, scan through the person's application and look and see, did the person moved around a lot? They may move around a lot just because they can't hold a job. They may move around a lot because family moves. They may move around a lot because they're filing workers' comp claims and they're just moving jurisdictions. So it's just a good idea to scan through the application. If you see any inconsistencies or anything the adjuster should know, let them know that it becomes very material in the workers' comp claim.
And
All
Steve, I
right.
want to put my contractor's hat over here. I know a lot of the contractors that are on this call are thinking, hey, but I got to hire somebody very quickly. Like I need somebody yesterday. It's important to follow this hiring process because when you get into the habit of doing that and hiring people extremely quick, that's when you jump over the red flags and you get a bad hire.
Yeah, and you know, Eddie, it's a great point. I think in every industry, construction, manufacturing, everybody needs people right now. Fast food, restaurants, motels, hotels. I mean, it doesn't matter. Hospitality, manufacturing, construction, they're all looking for people. Just take an extra minute. I can't tell you how many claims we get that if the employee had to follow the employer had to just follow the roadmap we're going through, they could have taken zeros off a really problem claim. So, you know, we talk about it all the time in the office, it doesn't matter till it matters. But unfortunately, it matters a lot because the litigation rate is so high that we've got to have all the ammunition. So if you jump over hoops, we lose ammunition to help you defend a claim, and the claim becomes more costly. You get very upset because it's going to impact your premium. And we're saying, look, just follow these steps and you're going to help us help you. So we're now to the background check. So we've completed an application. You know, you either hire or don't hire. We'll go through the background check. And you know, we've got a preferred vendor relationship if you don't have anyone. But you know, that's up to you guys. You know, if you may be in a business where you're required to do background checks. Some of the background checks, you know, certainly if you got a driver, you're doing an NVR, those kind of things. You know, we've got a vendor, for example, that does continuous NVR monitoring. You know, it used to be back in the day, you know, 25 years ago, they're like, hey, we want you to run NVRs every year. But it's kind of like we'd like you to. Then it became you have to run NVRs every year. Now, insurance carriers are liking to see the continuous monitoring because what if you run it today and next month your driver in their personal vehicle got a DUI? They turn around 2 months later and they have, you know, accident in the company vehicle. That plaintiff attorney is going to blow you up. You talk about a claim going from 0 to 60, $100,000 claim, getting into your excess umbrella. It's going to be because of that. And you're going to say, well, I didn't know. And they're going to say, well, you should have. So the biggest change I see right now in MVRs on background checks is continuous monitoring. Again, Eddie can give you more information about that if you need more information. Okay, pretty simple. Now we're to step 5, integrity test. Remember what I said earlier? This integrity test can be done before you make a conditional offer. At any step in that process, it could be step 1 or step 5. We use a vendor. I've used this vendor for, gosh, 14 years, done hundreds of thousands of integrity tests. And you're like, it can't work. It works. Is a person likely to lie, cheat, steal? So we use a vendor. It costs anywhere between $20 and $45 a test. If you're hiring for a position, and you can do it by the position or you can do it by the applicant. But basically, we've got a preferred vendor. It's easy. It's multilingual. It doesn't take long for the employee to go through it. And you basically get a red light, yellow light, or green light. If you get a red light, you shouldn't hire them. If you get a yellow light, use caution. And if you get a green light, probably about 11, maybe 15 to 11%, 11 to 15% of the applicants are going to get DQ'd in this thing. Are they going to cheat, lie, steal, malinger, not follow safety rules, or file a workers' comp claim? Remember what we said earlier, 91% of the HR managers said they hired a workers' comp claim. In other words, they hired a person kind of laid low a few months, and then they filed a claim. This kind of mitigates that exposure. So the cost of the test pales in comparison with the cost of that claim. So it's a great tool. We like it. We think when you put these steps together, as we continue on through this process, it makes a big difference. Your insurance premium will pay for it. The savings you'll get from eliminating and mitigating risk is going to deliver you lower rates. So not trying to throw cost on you. The other stuff you can do with our consultation, you can do for free. This is a third-party vendor. So again, why should you use it? Proven statistics, it'll reduce work comp claims, the number of claims by 42% and the cost by 15%. So big cost driver on the workers' comp. Also, it'll reduce turnover by 30%, and it will also impact at-fault auto claims, 13.4%. All this stuff is benchmarked by the vendor we use. And again, they've been around a long time. So it's got proven ROI. I would certainly, if you're interested, let one of the guys know, and they can give you some follow-up information. Zach?
Okay, this is our first keyword, integrity. So if you are collecting your CEU, please write this down. When we give you the program eval at the end of the session, we'll put it in the chat. You'll need this word in order to get your credit. So write down integrity now. This is very important for your CEU.
Brian had a
No.
question. Brian had a question real quick. He says, does using the third party for integrity testing isolate the company from a potential EEOC claim?
That's a great question, Brian. And this thing is very vetted out with the EOC. In fact, EOC actually gives guidance on this. And to my knowledge, and I've been using them, hundreds of thousands of tests, we've never had any EEOC challenge. So that's certainly something the vendor can talk through, but this thing is time tested. It's not something new. They've been around a long time. And it's been vetted with the EEOC. So great question. We're not attorneys, but I think the guidance and advice we're giving you has been pretty time tested. So, if you're interested, Brian, certainly, hop on a call with Eddie and he can answer and get into more detail on that. Great question.
And Steve, would you include that in the employee application? Like where would you recommend doing it?
So when you ask that, that's a great question. If we go back to the flow chart, that's why some people have it step one. So let's say that you're applying for a job in a portal. Some employers say, hey, go through the portal and we'll screen your application. They'll put that as the first, and they just built the AI in. If it registers a certain score, it doesn't even get to the next step in the online, automated application. So that's where sometimes it moves up in the food chain. Some employers say, hey, do this first, because we don't even want to present a job description or have you complete if you have no integrity. So, and it's crazy. You think about it. Is somebody going to admit they lie, cheat, steal, malinger, do drugs, or violate safety rules? But this is psychometrically tested. It was built by psychologists, and it works. Okay, we're all the way now to the point where we're going to make a conditional offer. Okay. And it seems like a lot. Eddie and I were talking, Zach, the other day. It seems like a lot, but this is not really a lot. You're talking about minutes of time for your HR person. You're not talking about an hour's worth of work. It's simple things you can do. Having the signage in place and present the job description, having complete an app. If you're doing background checks, integrity tests, it's just doing them in the right order. Now, I would submit to you, when you're doing these things, it's our responsibility as insurance brokers to evidence this to the insurance company. This is what drives your cost down. It will drive your cost down long term because it's going to impact claims. But short term, just having a process in place is very valuable to those underwriters that are underwriting your business. Okay, now we're post-offer. Now, if you do drug tests, you're going to give them the drug test. If you do the drug test in-house and it tests positive, if you're doing a swab or whatnot, send them to a Sanchez certified lab. Okay. Make sure you follow the rules on the drug testing, and it's got to be consistent with your written policy. I just mentioned the Sanchez certified lab. It's got to be consistent. You can't do it for Zach and then wink nod. Eddie's my best friend. I let Eddie come in and don't do the drug test. That's the kind of stuff that'll get you in trouble with the EEOC if you're not consistent. Same thing with the integrity testing. It's okay if you don't do it for every applicant. If you do it just say for the people in safety sensitive jobs and you don't do it for the clerical folks, that's okay. As long as you do it by a job description or a job function, you can do everyone within that applies. Okay.
Now,
And
Steve,
same
what
thing
about
with-
if a company has several people doing the hiring? What type of training do they need for drug testing?
well, if they're doing the drug testing internally, they're doing it, say they're doing the cotton swabs, I would say, get with Zach and we've got a coordinator that can train them, that also can help them with written policy. But most of the companies that offer those kits, when they do it in-house, also offer training. They'll train the trainer and they'll come in, it's web-based training, and they'll give you training to make sure that you're doing it properly. Because there's a lot of things you got to do it correctly, but you're never going to rely on a drug test done at the employer site. If you get a positive test, you're going to send them out for a confirmation test to the clinic that's SAMHSA certified. Make sense? Good question, Eddie. All right. We're now getting into the nitty gritty. Y'all hang with me on this. This one, like Zach said, gosh, be clear on this because there's a lot of steps. We're to the post-offer health questionnaire. Okay, we've offered the job. We've gone through all these other steps and we've gotten to, hey, we want to offer a job. There's a thing called a post-offer health questionnaire. We have one that has literally been used by thousands of employers, and it has absolutely withstood the test of time with the EEOC. So it is legal to ask the person, have you ever filed a workers' comp claim? Have you ever had a prior injury? You can ask all those things post-offer, not pre-offer, has to be post-offer. Okay. And we're going to go through the workflow of what you do when you use a post-offer health questionnaire. I'm going to try to unpack. I put this workflow together because these are questions I have. So, basically when someone fills it out, they're either going to tell the truth and they had no prior history. They're going to tell the truth and they're going to put their prior history on the form, or they're going to lie and not tell you their prior history. It's one of three things. So certainly in the first one, if they had nothing and they do it honestly, that's kind of that. You put it in a file. That's the end of the story. But what happens if they put something on it, say, yeah, I have had a previous knee surgery or I have had a previous workers' comp claim. What do you do with that information? And then what obviously do you do if they lie? So we're going to unpack that. Okay. I want to go through first some guidance on this. And, the one thing I tell everybody, so if you're an employer and you have a post-offer health questionnaire, let us just review it and make sure it's a good form. And, we've got a really good form that's bilingual in the same form, but it's been time tested. So if you just picked it up somewhere or created it yourself, it might just be swapping a piece of paper. That's no extra work for you. So have the right form. Again, make sure that it's been vetted. Make sure that it has any state-specific language. Most states don't require it, but some states do, that you got to add language. So if you're in operation in more than just Florida, you may need to consider adding additional language to the form. Okay. The second thing is you want to make sure you use it properly. Okay. This is huge. Eddie just picked up a new client. They had the form, but they never looked at it. And the person didn't complete it. It's kind of like the application. They didn't fill it all out. So they didn't lie. They just didn't even complete it. And the employer didn't check it. So review the form, have the workflow to address concerns if they do mark something on it. That's what we're going to go over in just a second. And then make sure you keep it. It's medical. HIPAA requires you to keep it in a separate file. Okay. Now, HIPAA doesn't apply to workers' comp. It's one of the few things that state law, Florida workers' comp law, or any other state law supersedes federal law. HIPAA doesn't, but it's still medical information. So you do have to keep it in a separate file. So after the claim, so we have the form. If you have a claim and you've used it, one, review it. So you're going through the claim and the person has a shoulder injury. And you go back to the post-offer health question and you say, well, they never told us they had shoulder surgery. Get a copy to the adjuster within 7 days. What they're going to do is do what they call an ISO. They're going to do a work comp check to see if the person's filed workers' comp claims and maybe a medical canvas to see if they've had any, maybe they got hurt in a car accident outside of workers' comp. And they're going to canvas that information. And let's say they find out that the person had a workers' comp claim a year ago on that same shoulder. They came to work for you, said they've never had a previous workers' comp claim, no shoulder problems. You know, you want to just get the post offer health questionnaire to the adjuster if the person's going to be out of work, lost time. And then when the medical stuff comes in that they collect, they're going to scan over it and look at the post offer health questionnaire and see if there's any inconsistencies. If you don't get them the post offer health questionnaire, in most states, it's 21 days to accept or deny a claim. And let's say you have it in there and we're rocking along and all of a sudden you get upset about the claim and we're 3 or 4 months and you go, wait, we got this post offer. He never told us anything about a shoulder, but it's 3 months down the road. The administrative law judge could just say, that's not newly discovered information. That was in your file. That should have been discovered before the adjuster accepted compensability. We're not going to use the information. So really, really important, gang, if you're using a post offer health questionnaire, send a copy to the adjuster the first week of the claim. Just make it a practice, do it every claim. It may not be material, but you don't know whether it is or not because you don't have access to that ISO information or that medical canvas. The adjuster does. So just send it to them. Make sure they review the post offer health questionnaire against the medical canvas and the ISO, and you're good to go. And so they use it as part of their investigation. Okay, let's go through. So remember where we're at right now. We're at the post offer health questionnaire. Now remember, I said on the job description, it's obviously a pre-hire tool, and then it's a prevention tool, and it's also a post-claim tool, but it's also a post-offer because it's part of the post-offer health questionnaire. Let me walk you through this. So you get red flags on the questionnaire. Let's say they put on there on the post-offer health questionnaire that they have had a previous problem with their shoulder. You review it, and does that, what they noted, pose any safety concerns for you? Okay, if the answer is no, no, man, we're hiring a person for an administrative position, sitting behind the desk. We're not really sure, worried if they've had rotator surgery to their shoulder versus a person that's putting inventory up on a shelf. If it's no, hire the person. If it's yes, what you want to do is you want to go to the next page. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to have a discussion with the candidate and you want to say, can you perform this job? And they're either going to say they can perform the job without accommodation, they can perform it with accommodation, or they can't perform the job. They're going to give you one of those 3 answers, okay? Those 3 blue boxes. If they say they can't perform the job, withdraw the job offer. And from an ADA standpoint, and we're not here to give legal advice, anything that you do internally, you should run by your HR attorney. I think I say that on the bottom of the next page. But because you presented the job description to them pre-hire, if you get to the post offer and they note something on there and they say they can't perform the job, you can withdraw the job offer. Okay, really important. But let's say they can do it without accommodation or they can do it with accommodation. So they think they can do it. You're going to go to the next page. Okay, without an accommodation, you're going to send them out to get an FCE. That's basically a physical, a functional capacity test. You're going to send them to the clinic. And you're going to pay for the test, and that you're going to give a copy of the job description along with the post offer health questionnaire to the doctor, and you're going to say, can this candidate do the job? Okay. I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. You're going to tell the employee, look, we're going to schedule for your appointment for next Friday. You've got to show up at that job, at that appointment, and they're going to do a physical and make sure you can do the job. I can tell you, if they're a person that is a predator that's looking to have a claim with you, they're never going to go to the appointment. You have eliminated that workers' comp claim because they're going to come work for you a month and file a claim. You've eliminated.
Talk a little bit, Steve, about the predators and what you've been seeing in the industry now.
You know, I remember when I did this workshop in Georgia for the Chamber of Commerce, for the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. I remember the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is a big paper in Atlanta, said, you know, it was on the front page of the business section that Steve Heinen says, post offer health questionnaire, keep predators out. You know, the goal of it, the EEOC goal of it is you just don't want to put someone that has a known condition in a physical demanding job where they're going to get hurt. Okay. I mean, that's the spirit of it, but you also want to keep these predators out. So what I see is if you go through this and you get to the point where you send them to the FCE, if they go, they really want to work. If they go, they're probably going to be okay. If they go to the doctor, then doctor gives an okay, put them to work. That means they want the job. And that also means you know about the prior claim. They're probably not going to pull any shenanigans with you. But more times than not, if they were a malingering employee, and let's say you're not doing the integrity test and that malingerer comes in, you eliminate them. So what we're trying to do, and what Eddie said earlier, is we're not trying to tell you, hey, man, you got to put these qualifications out there to hire someone. We're just saying what you got to do is put up a couple of speed bumps. Okay. But let's say they go over and the doctor comes back and says they can perform it with an accommodation. You've got to then look and say, is accommodation reasonable? And that gets into a little bit of ADA. That you're going to probably need some help on. But I can tell you, of the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, probably millions of applicants I've been involved with through my client, very, very few, a couple handfuls get to the accommodation stage. Usually they go to the doctor and the doctor says, yeah, they can do the job, or the employee never even shows up at the doctor's appointment. So, if the employee has a wherewithal to go to the physical, they're probably going to be a good hire for you. If they get clearance, if they don't, maybe consider putting them in another job. They at least made the effort. They want to work. So just follow this flow chart. And again, Zach will be sending this out to everyone. And as you go through it, I'm sure there'll be questions. Feel free to contact Zach or Eddie. They can go through the flow chart with you one-on-one and answer any questions. Happy to sit down with anybody in HR, if you're not in HR, within your company, and explain this. But I hear a lot of times on the post-op health questionnaire, HR attorneys hate it. They're like, man, it's a landmine. Don't do it. You're going to create litigation. And the work comp attorneys say, you're crazy if you don't use it. Because it's such an important and valuable tool that will help you significantly reduce workers' comp claims. All right, we're through that. Now we're going to say they've gone through the post-offer health questionnaire. They've gotten their FCE. There was red flags. They got their FCE. They got a clean bill of health from the doctor. We're going to hire them. If it's a safety sensitive job, excuse me, I got something in my eye here. If it's a safety sensitive job, we've got a very proprietary 3-prong process. And it's proprietary because we created it, but it's something simple you guys can follow. It's something simple you can do. So I want to kind of go through these 3 steps. And I want to tell you, when you hire someone, and I think Eddie said this, you get one chance to make a first impression. And I want you to
The
think about
welcome mat. It's basically the welcome mat to your company and how you set the standards at the beginning.
that's right, but it's perception. And I want to tell you, it's not the perception that you're a good company or bad company, but most people have worked somewhere else. So they have a perception of what safety is. They have a perception of what accountability is. And it's not what you're doing, it's what they have done in their past. So you've got an opportunity day one to set that perception of what your company is. If you go through the motions, if you don't do a good job, they're going to probably go through the motions. If you go through the motions, setting the standard of what our safety program is, they're going to go through the motions following it. Just follow the leader. So what we say is, you get that welcome mat. You just got to understand everybody in life has perceptions, and perceptions are what, Zach? Perception is?
Wait, is this a trick question?
Yeah, no, well, perception is reality, right? I tell people perception's expensive. In risk management, what they perceive your company and what it's like, it's expensive because they probably weren't treated well. They've got a perception of other people that had workers' comp claims that weren't treated well. Family members that weren't treated well for a completely different company, not your company. I remember one time I did a workshop, and this company is best in class on safety culture. And I was doing a workshop, one of the vendors doing a workshop for their employees. They bring all 600 employees in every year, and they let them do breakout training. And I think I had the biggest crowd because at the time the Braves were really hot. I was giving away free Braves tickets, so everybody came into my session. And I asked the question. I said, "How do you guys feel you'll be treated if you have a workers' comp claim?" And everybody's like, "Great, great." And this one lady in the back said, "I think we'll be treated like crap." And I was like, "Do tell." And she'd only been there. She'd only been there a week, but it's a perception she brought from another company. So just remember that. When you were hired, we asked this question. We have a proprietary employee perception survey, something that's pretty advanced for companies that really feel like they have a pretty good culture. It's not really a tool for somebody that just doesn't have anything. But somebody that has a good culture, and they say, "Yeah, we got a great culture." I say, "How do you know?" Let's ask the employees what they think. And we got a 30-question employee perception survey. And this is for companies that think they're above the bar on safety culture. When you were hired, did you receive training to perform your job safely? 35% yes. And I've done literally hundreds of thousands of these perception surveys. 35% yes, 41% could have been better, and 24% no. That's a failing grade. That tells me that welcome mat that Eddie talked about is not a very good welcome mat. And this is the employee. It doesn't matter what the C-level thinks or the HR director or the safety manager thinks. When we ask you guys, what do you think about your new hire? What matters is what the employees think, because perception is expensive. Okay, let's talk about the three-pronged process. How are we doing on time, Zach?
You got 10 minutes.
Okay, the new hire three-pronged process. We start with we call it a safety video. It's really not a video, but that's what we call it. It's really a package we put together in the learning management system that we give our clients. And it's one that they go through. It's interactive. We use kind of some cool software, so it's not the standard safety video. We make it interactive with the employee where they have to engage with the training. So they go through that. Then we create a safety checklist. Say, okay, we just went through this training. Even though the training's got quiz questions inside the training, we have a checklist and said, look, we went through these things. Do you understand? The third prong is we have the supervisors do a walkthrough. And we say, okay, Zach, you're going to be working in this department. Here's the PPE requirement. Here's the emergency exit. Here's where our right to know stuff is. And our STS book and all these different things. And the supervisor and employee, every time they show them something in the plan, they both sign off on it. That kills two birds with one stone. One, it trains the supervisors. Because if they're going with every new hire, if we have somebody not wearing their PPE, not wearing their safety glasses in a certain area, we're going to hold this supervisor accountable. And if they're training people every day when they're bringing new people on their line or on their shift, they're more apt to make sure that people are following it. Taking someone through saying you got to wear your PPE. If they see three people not wearing their PPE, it's not going to work. So it does a lot of things. This three-pronged process not only creates accountability with the employee and understanding with the employee, but it also ties it back to the supervisor. Understanding, documentation, accountability. That's what we're about when we do training, when we help our clients with training. We've got, a lot of EIG customers on this webinar. That's what we're striving to do, is create understanding for the employees, documentation to protect the employer, and ultimately accountability goes both ways. It goes to the employee and also to the supervisors and leadership. I'm not going to talk about it because I got too long-winded on the post-offer health questionnaire. But with a learning management system, we call it a video. It's not really a video. It's really an interactive thing that the employee has to, connect with. But it's got to be engaging. It's got to be client specific. And ultimately, the training's got to create accountability. You got to do compliance for things like OSHA and DOT. But it's also got to create accountability for that employee. Zach, polling question.
Okay, here we go. Was the information in this webinar actionable?
That determines whether I get to come back for the next webinar. If you say no, you're just voting against me. Just know that.
And you still can be in the prize wheel even if you say no.
Yeah, that means you just want the young guys teaching and you want the old guy off the air. I'm okay with that.
All right, we'll give everyone 10 more seconds.
Usually I try to take a time because we're running short on time. I try to go ahead and
Yeah.
answer. And I just say yes to everyone, but they actually had to launch. Zach's so stickler for detail.
Okay, so we're gonna end the poll here. Let's share the results. So, okay, I think this was a success. Yes, 82%, no, 0%, and 18%. I can't wait for the next one. That
I
was a
wish it was
little
100%. I
extra
can't
I
wait
had
for
added in
you.
there you weren't ready for.
0%.
I like that. And listen, guys, I want to tell you this. And Eddie and I talked about this in Zach yesterday. It seems like a lot. It does. The whole flow chart, and it seems overwhelming. It's really not. You know, if you could give these guys a call, if you need some help, they can walk you through it. But I guarantee you, it's going to make a difference. And all it's going to do is give you weed out the ones that you know are going to file a claim. It doesn't weed out everybody, but it does give us documentation to fall back on. If we sometimes you hire a good person, they become a malingerer down the road. Like they came in and wanted to work hard. How many have we had like that? They start out the first 6 months like game busters, and then they turn into a sorry employee. What you're doing is you're helping us build a file to fight back. Everybody gets mad at the insurance companies. Says, man, they just pay claims, which is, by the way, true. What we've got to do is fight back. We got way too much litigation, and the claimant attorneys are winning the battle. And we got to fight back. To do that, we got to have your help. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Oh,
Keyword.
okay, this is it. This is our second keyword. So if you're collecting the CEU, write down the word actionable. You will need that word. The first one was integrity. The second word actionable, you'll need both words to complete the program evaluation.
All
And
right.
I'm gonna put the link for the eval here. So as we do the conclusion, you can make note of this link.
You gonna put it in the chat box, Zach?
Yeah, it's in the chat. We're also going to send an email to everyone within the next hour. Look out for an email from our team with the program eval link, as well as the hiring flowchart.
Let me say this, and I so much appreciate you guys wanting to learn and wanting to get better. Again, the only way we can fight back against this crazy increase in litigation, 50% of the claims end up in litigation, is to fight back is we got to create more accountability for the employees. And this is a step. And I think when you go through the webinars, if you join us on the next one on prevention, all these pieces fit together. You can't do one and expect to make an impact. You got it. It's an ecosystem. The thing that makes P4 work so well is it's all for from the time you hire someone to the ongoing life of employment with you to the point they have a claim. Works the same with auto, works the same with cyber, works the same with EPLI, which we'll cover later. So I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to be part of this. It tells me you're really interested not only in reducing your insurance spend, which it'll do, but really helping your company really create accountability for the employees where we keep them working. The claimant attorneys say you're better off hiring us. Their goal is to keep them out of work. Our goal is to keep people working. And by doing some of these things, you will have an impact on people staying at work.
As Zach said again, there's a webinar every month. Please look out for the next one, which is going to be on safety and prevention. You will be getting an invite for that. So check your inbox and sign up.
Awesome. So, Zach, I guess this is the part
Yes.
you turn it over to the questions.
So we have some really great questions here, but we're running close to the 3 o'clock hour. This is my thoughts. I say we go ahead and do the prize wheel now so that we get this done before 3. And if anyone wants to stick around, I say we take a couple extra minutes and answer these questions. So we give you a little extra bonus freebie over the hour. So let's go do the prize wheel. So Steve, if you want, let me share my screen now.
Yeah. How do I do that?
I
And
think just stop sharing your screen.
we
and
did get a
let's-
lot of questions that were already answered in the chat area. I shared my email there. So if you want any of the information here, please email me. We will be sending out again a recording of this presentation along with the documentation that we discussed.
And the flow chart. Yeah. Good job. Yep. Go ahead, Zach. This is what they really came for.
Okay, hold on. We're just building some suspense here.
Are we giving them a Ford Explorer? Is that going in there? Or is that next session?
We're saving that. That's for the last webinar.
I don't see the prize wheel. I see Steve's
I'm
face.
having some trouble loading the screen share. 1 second.
Annalee said we rock, so that's awesome. But she also works on our team, so. But I still appreciate that, Annalee.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Okay, it's loading. Hitting the screen share now. Let's see if this is working. Let me know when you can see the screen. Okay, can we see it?
You're frozen, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have it now?
Yeah.
Yep,
You got
there
it.
we go.
Okay, so this is the prize wheel. We have two $50 Amazon gift cards we're going to be spinning. So we see here we have our 300 attendees on the list, and we upgraded the prize wheel. It has our EIG logo on it.
It looks
So
like a record. We're breaking
Yeah.
records.
All right, so let's spin the wheel for the first gift card. And here we go. Spin the wheel.
You
The
know,
name of the
to me, it
person.
looks like you're hypnotizing everyone to say, buy your insurance from EIG. Guys, don't stare at it too closely.
Fernando
Oh.
Fernandez.
Awesome, Fernando.
Okay, you are the first winner. Congratulations. Okay, and it's time to pick our second winner. Do we have a drum roll? Here we go. Let's spin the wheel.
Steve Heinen. Yes.
The wheel stuck.
Oh, it's close. It's close. Millie.
Whoa.
Millie, you are the winner.
Millie.
Congratulations. All right, so thank you everyone for attending. At this point, let's do a couple questions. If anyone wants to stick around, we had some great questions that were posed to us throughout the session, and I think the audience deserves the answers. So let's start. This is the first question we have here. My hotel has implemented a pre-hire drug testing and is now not getting enough candidates, and ones who do apply are failing the drug screen. What are some ways to overcome this?
Zach, why don't you take that one?
Okay. So being a background in handling employer drug testing, I know the challenges in hospitality and certain industries to do pre-employment drug testing. So you have to think about your population and what is going to work for you. So something that you could do in Florida is to exclude THC from the testing panel, because that's usually the primary drug that's flagging these positive tests. The other drugs you're probably going to want to continue to test for, and you also may decide you don't want an employee using marijuana because it is a liability and it's still statistically proven to cause accidents. But if you want to do some screening, but maybe not the full screening, there are testing panels that are what's called a 4-panel drug screen that checks for the other main classifications for drugs, but does eliminate THC. I will say you definitely want to keep THC as part of post-accident testing. You still want to check for it on injury, so don't exclude it from that section of your testing. And also, if you are a certified drug-free workplace where you're getting your 5% discount, you do want to check with your carrier first before you remove THC, because they have to accept or deny you removing that. Another thing you could do is to eliminate drug testing and move to integrity testing. Try something else that can weed out candidates. Oh, it was a play on words. Weed out candidates, but still give you some type of guidance as to who would be a red flag before you hire them. That would be my advice.
Good job on weeding out candidates. I like that.
Any other questions?
Here's another question that we had. If there are red flags on a post-offer health questionnaire, where do we send them for this? And who is best to conduct a functional capacity evaluation? And what information do we need to provide them in order to create and simulate our job functions?
Zach, I think you're probably also.
I think also with my medical background, I would be the right one to answer this. So you want to work with a facility that specializes in occupational medicine, that this is what they do day in and day out, and they understand employer needs, workers' comp, physicals, drug testing. it's usually conducted in a physical therapy department because they're able to simulate the lifting demands of the job. So the employee will come in, they'll probably have a doctor, someone evaluate them, do a basic physical, make sure they're safe to do this physical capability exam, and then bring them to the physical therapy department. So in order to set this up, you want a very detailed job description. You want pushing, pulling, physical demand requirements for the job, so exactly what they're going to do. And then that physical therapist is going to work with their team to create a job description and an analysis to be able to perform the functions. And it's usually a pass or fail for each section. So the employee will have to go and simulate lifting, pushing, pulling, and make sure that they can safely do those functions. And you'll get a report back, pass or fail for each of them. And you can make a decision, is this someone we should hire? And I've seen them get very technical. So you can tailor this to your industry, where we worked with some dairy delivery companies, and they would actually bring milk crates into the clinic, and they would have to simulate the exact job duties they were doing. I know we also had like EMTs, and we would have steps in the clinic. They would have to simulate lifting a patient up a gurney, up and down stairs. So you can get very technical with these exams, and the key is setting it up correct in the beginning and working with a clinic that understands ACMED to be able to do these type of tests.
And
Zach,
Zach, can you help them with that?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
definitely. Yeah, I'm very well connected with clinics in the area. So if you're ever having any issues with your pre-hire setup or anything related to workers' comp, again, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I'm definitely available to help you with developing your workers' comp program. All right, we got another question here. If I have candidates who fail the integrity test, but when interviewing them, they seem like the right fit and I really need staff, can I still hire them? Any precautions before I hire them? Who can
I'll,
take this?
I'll take that one. So you can hire anybody. I would tell you, if you hire someone and they're a red light and you go in and hire them anyway, and they have a claim, you're almost predisposed that they're going to malinger. So, you at least got knowledge to maybe make the adjuster aware of saying, look, we need high eyes on this one. Like, we got to rein this cow on the bar right the first days of the claim, because this person sort of was predisposed. And it doesn't mean they will malinger. It's information you can share with the adjuster.
Okay, good point. Here's another one. Who do you recommend I use for the drug testing, the background checks, the integrity testing? Are there any preferred vendors you recommend?
Yeah, we have them for all of them. I think that's going to be a one-off depending on which client. We use one integrity test vendor. On the medical, Zach, you're going to hook them up based on the area they work in. And certainly on the background checks, it's going to depend what industry they're in.
Okay, so I say reach out. We'll give you all the specifics of who we recommend for these different services. And then one last question that came in. What drug screen panel do you recommend if we are in the healthcare field, and why? So if you're in healthcare, you're going to probably want to do a higher panel drug screen. So a 10 panel drug screen or something along those lines is what you're going to want to do, because those check for the prescription narcotics. The lower panel, the 5 panel, is the 5 main classifications. But as you get to those higher testing panels, you're checking for prescription drugs. And those are what's readily available in a healthcare facility. So you want to make sure employees are not gaining access to those drugs and using those drugs. So that would be my recommendation, is to go to one of those higher panel drug screens. But for most industries, a 5 panel drug screen is sufficient. It checks for those main classifications. It's what the drug-free workplace recommends as the 5 panel. So it's really the standard in drug testing. When you start doing these higher panel tests, you'll get sometimes delays in results because an employee may be taking a prescription narcotic, and when it's sent back to the medical review officer, which is the doctor who reads and interprets the results, it'll red flag it. They have to get on the phone with the patient, verify the prescription, and determine, is there a reason they're taking this? And if there is, it then still comes back to you negative. You won't know they're using it because they have a valid prescription. And if they're safety sensitive, that's where it gets tricky, where they may have to disclose it. So you also want to work with a drug testing company that has open dialogue with you, and an MRO that you can trust, that knows will be providing you that right information. So this also gets technical. If you have any other questions on drug testing, you can certainly reach out to me and we can review any scenarios.
Hey, Steve, I got
Zach,
one question. One last question here on safety orientation. The question is, how long does the safety orientation take typically on the 3-prong approach?
Well, that's a great question. I'm going to have to finish with questions. I got a question for you, Eddie, but I'll answer that one. Really, with the platform we use, we don't believe in the 30, 40 minute, hour safety videos that you buy off the shelf. And, I think we can do a really good safety orientation online in 12 to 15 minutes, certainly less than 20. If it's a really technical job. But shorter is better. The second prong of it is just a piece of paper to sign. And the third prong is just really an opportunity for that supervisor to do a walkthrough. So I think the online part, shorter is better, backfilled with a checklist. So Eddie, we're going to wrap this thing up with a question for you. This is a pop quiz. Eddie,
Right.
you're the only one of the three of us. I've been in the insurance side for 42 years, but you actually work for an employer as a safety manager and risk manager for the employer. Um, don't you wish your broker had brought you something like this when you were buying insurance as a big contractor?
Yeah, I wish I had a time machine. That's why I
Yeah,
wanted
that's
the
what
time
I'm
machine.
saying, the time machine. So listen, guys, it was a great webinar. Zach, you want to sign us off?
Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us and sticking with us for our little after hours Q&A session. We will be having our next webinar in October. So as mentioned, we will get that email out next week with the link to register for our safety program. You're definitely not going to want to miss this. And then they're going to continue monthly. The one on claims management, as I said, we have some really exciting guest presenters are going to be joining us. So we're going to keep the momentum going month to month. And we appreciate everyone joining us for each of these sessions. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the week.